Epilogue. A restless, fitfully windy night in June 1456, full of summer lightning after many days of heat. King Charles VII of France, formerly Joan's Dauphin, now Charles the Victorious, aged 51, is in bed in one of his royal chateaux. The bed, raised on a dais of 2 steps, is towards the side of the room so as to avoid blocking a tall lancet window in the middle. Its canopy bears the royal arms in embroidery. Except for the canopy and the huge down pillows, there is nothing to distinguish it from a broad settee with bedclothes and a valance. Thus, its occupant is in full view from the foot. Charles is not asleep. He is reading in bed, or rather looking at the pictures in Foucault's Boccaccio, with his knees doubled up to make a reading desk. Beside the bed in his left is a little table with a picture of the Virgin, lighted by candles of painted wax. The walls are hung from ceiling to floor with painted curtains which stir at times in the draughts. At first glance, the prevailing yellow and red in these hanging pictures is somewhat flame-like when the folds breathe in the wind. The door is on Charles's left, but in front of him, close to the corner farthest from him, a large watchman's rattle, handsomely designed and gaily painted, is in the bed under his hand. Charles turns a leaf. A distant clock strikes the half-hour softly. Charles shuts the book with a clap, throws it aside, snatches up the rattle, and whirls it energetically, making a deafening clatter. Ladvenu enters, 25 years older, strange and stark in bearing, and still carrying the cross from Rouen. Charles evidently does not expect him, for he springs out of bed in the farthest side from the door. "Who are you? Where is my gentleman of the bedchamber? What do you want?" "I bring you glad tidings of great joy. Rejoice, O king, for the taint is removed from your blood, and the stain from your crown. Justice, long delayed, is at last triumphant." "What are you talking about? Who are you?" "I am Brother Martin." "And who, saving your reverence, may Brother Martin be?" "I held this cross when the maid perished in the fire. 25 years have passed since then, nearly 10,000 days, and on every one of those days I have prayed God to justify his daughter on earth as she is justified in heaven." Charles, reassured, sitting down on the foot of the bed. "Oh, I remember now. I have heard of you. You have a bee in your bonnet about the maid. Have you been at the inquiry?" "I have given my testimony." "Is it over?" "It is over." "Satisfactorily?" "The ways of God are very strange." "How so?" "At the trial, which sent a saint to the stakes as a heretic and a sorceress, the truth was told. The law was upheld. Mercy was shown beyond all custom. No wrong was done, but the final and dreadful wrong of the lying sentence and the pitiless fire. At this inquiry from which I have just come, there was shameless perjury, courtly corruption, calumny of the dead who did their duty according to their lights, cowardly evasion of the issue, testimony made of idle tales that could not impose on a plowboy. Yet out of this insult to justice, this defamation of the church, this orgy of lying and foolishness, the truth is set in the noonday sun on the hilltop. The white robe of innocence is cleansed from the smirch of the burning faggots. The holy light is sanctified. The true heart that lived through the flame is consecrated. A great lie is silenced forever, and a great wrong is set right before all men. My friend, provided they can no longer say that I was crowned by a witch and a heretic, I shall not fuss about how the trick has been done. Joan would not have fussed about it, if it came all right in the end. She was not that sort. I knew her. Is her rehabilitation complete? I made it pretty clear that there was to be no nonsense about it. It is solemnly declared that her judges were full of corruption, cozenage, fraud, and malice. 4 falsehoods. Never mind the falsehoods. Her judges are dead. The sentence on her is broken, annulled, annihilated. set aside as non-existent, without value or effect. Good. Nobody can challenge my consecration now, can they? Not Charlemagne nor King David himself was more sacredly crowned. Excellent. Think of what that means to me. I think of what that means to her. You cannot. None of us ever knew what anything meant to her. She was like nobody else. She must take care of herself wherever she is. For I cannot take care of her. And neither can you. Whatever you may think, you are not big enough, but I will tell you this about her. If you could bring her back to life, they would burn her again within 6 months for all their present adoration of her, and you would hold up the cross too just the same. Let her rest, and let you and I mind our own business, and not meddle with hers. God forbid that I should have no share in her, nor she in me. Ladvenu turns and strides out as he came, saying, Henceforth my path will not lie through palaces, nor my conversation be with kings. Charles follows him towards the door, shouting after him, Much good may it do you, holy man! Returns to the middle of the chamber, where he halts and says quizzically to himself, That was a funny chap. How did he get in? Where are my people? He goes impatiently to the bed and swings the rattle. A hush of wind through the open door sets the walls swaying agitatedly. The candles go out. He calls in the darkness, Hello! Someone come and shut the windows. Everything is being blown all over the place. A flash of summer lightning shows up the lampset window. The figure is seen in silhouette against it. Who is there? Who is that? Help! Murder! Thunder. He jumps into bed and hides under the clothes. Joan's voice. Easy, Charlie, easy. What art making all that noise for? No one can hear thee. Thou art asleep. She is dimly seen in a pallid greenish light by the bedside. Joan? Are you a ghost, Joan? Hardly even that, lad. Can a poor burnt-up lass have a ghost? I am but a dream that thou art dreaming. The light increases. They become plainly visible as he sits up. Thou looks older, lad. I am older. Am I really asleep? Fallen asleep over thy silly book. That's funny. Not so funny as that I am dead, is it? Are you really dead? As dead as anyone ever is, laddie. I am out of the body. Just fancy. Did it hurt much? Did what hurt much? Being burnt. Oh, that? I cannot remember very well. I think it did at first, but then it all got mixed up, and I was not in my right mind until I was free of the body. But do not thou go handling fire and thinking it will not hurt thee. How hast thou ever been since? Oh, not so bad. Do you know, I actually led my army out and win battles? Down into the moat, up to my waist in mud and blood, up the ladders with the stones and hot pitch raining down. Like you. No! Did I make a man of thee after all, Charlie? I am Charles the Victorious now. I had to be brave because you were. Agnes put a little pluck in me too. Agnes? Who was Agnes? Agnes Sorrel, a woman I fell in love with. I dream of her often. I never dreamed of you before. Is she dead, like me? Yes, but she was not like you. She was very beautiful. I was no beauty. I was always a rough one, a regular soldier. I might almost as well have been a man. Pity I wasn't. I should not have bothered you at all so much then. But my head was in the skies, and the glory of God was upon me, and, man or woman, I should have bothered you as long as your noses were in mud. Now tell me, what has happened since you wise men knew no better than to make a heap of cinders of me? Your mother and brothers have sued the courts to have your case tried over again, and the courts have declared that your judges were full of corruption and cozenage, fraud and malice. Not they! They were as honest a lot of poor fools as ever burned their betters. The sentence on you is broken, annihilated, annulled, null, non-existent, without value or effect. I was burned all the same. Can they unburn me? If they could, they would think twice before they did it, but they have decreed that a beautiful cross be placed where the stake stood, for your perpetual memory and for your salvation. It is the memory and the salvation that sanctify the cross, not the cross that sanctifies the memory and the salvation. She turns away, forgetting him. I shall outlast that cross. I shall be remembered when men will have forgotten where Rouen stood. There you go with your self-conceit, the same as ever. Think you might say a word of thanks to me for having had justice done at last. Cochon appears at the window between them. Liar! Thank you. Why, if it isn't Peter Cochon! How are you, Peter? What luck have you had since you burned me? None. I arraign the justice of man. It is not the justice of God. Still dreaming of justice, Peter? See what justice came with me? But what has happened to thee? Art dead or alive? Dead. Dishonored. They pursued me beyond the grave. They excommunicated my dead body. They dug it up and flung it into the common sewer. Your dead body did not feel the spade in the sewer as my live body felt the fire. But this thing that they have done against me hurts justice, destroys faith, saps the foundation of the church. The solid earth sways like the treacherous sea beneath the feet of men and spirits alike when the innocent are slain in the name of law and the wrongs are undone by slandering the pure of heart. Well, well, Peter, I hope men will be the better for remembering me, and they would not remember me so well if you had not burned me. They will be the worse for remembering me. They will see in me evil triumphing over good, falsehood over truth, cruelty over mercy, hell over heaven. Their courage will rise as they think of you, only to faint as they think of me. Yet God is my witness, I was just, I was merciful, I was faithful to my light. I could do no other than I did. Charles scrambling out of the sheets and enthroning himself on the side of the bed. Yes, it is always you good men that do the big mischiefs. Look at me! I am not Charles the Good, nor Charles the Wise, nor Charles the Bold. Joan's worshippers may even call me Charles the Coward, because I did not pull her out of the fire. But I have done less harm than any of you. You people with your heads in the sky spend all your time trying to turn the world upside down. But I take the world as it is, and say that top side up is right side up. And I keep my nose pretty close to the ground. And I ask you, what king of France has done better, or been a better fellow in his little way? Not really king of France, Charlie. Be the English gone? Dunois, coming through the tapestry on Joan's left, the candles relighting themselves at the same moment, and illuminating his armor and surcoat cheerfully. I have kept my word. The English are gone. Praised be God! Now is fair, France a province in heaven? Tell me all about the fighting, Jack. Was it thou that led them? Wert thou God's captain to my death? I am not dead. My body is very comfortably asleep at my bed in Châteaudun, but my spirit is called here by yours. And you fought them my way, Jack, eh? Not the old way, chaffering for ransoms, but the maid's way, staking life against death, with the heart high and humble, and void of malice, and nothing counting under God but France free and French? Was it my way, Jack? Faith, it was any way that would win. But the way that one was always your way. I give you best, lassie. I wrote a fine letter to set you right at the new trial. Perhaps I should never have done the priest. I should have never let the priest burn you. But I was busy fighting. It was the church's business, not mine. There was no use in both of us being burned, was there? Ay, put the flame on the priests, but I, who am beyond praise and blame, tell you that the world is saved neither by its priests nor its soldiers, but by God and his saints. The church militant sent his woman to the friar, but even as she burned, the flames whitened into the radiance of the church triumphant. A ruffianly English soldier comes through the curtains and marches between Dunois and Joan. What villainous troubadour taught you that doggerel? The soldier says, No doggerel, we made it up ourselves as we marched. We were not gentlefolks and troubadours. Music straight out of the heart of the people, as you might say. Rum-tum, truddle-tum, bacon fat and rumple-dum, old Saint Mumpledum, pull his tail and stumple-dum. That don't mean anything, you know. It keeps you marching. Your servant, ladies and gentlemen. Who asked for a saint? Be you a saint? Yes, lady, straight from hell. A saint from hell? Yes, noble captain, I have a day off every year, you know. That's my allowance for my one good action. Wretch, in all the years of your life, did you do only one good action? I never thought about it. It came natural like, but they schooled it up for me. What was it? Why, the silliest thing you ever heard of, Joan interrupts him by strolling across to the bed, where she sits beside Charles. He tied two sticks together and gave them to a poor lass that was going to be burned. Right, who told you that? Never mind. Would you know her if you saw her again? Not I. There's so many girls, and they all expect you to remember them as if there was only one in all the world. This one must have been a prime sort, for I have a day off every year for her. And so, until 12 o'clock punctually, I am a saint at your service, noble lords and lovely ladies. And after 12, Charles asks. After 12? Back to the only place fit for the likes of me. Back there? You? That gave the lass the cross? Well, she asked for it, and they were going to burn her. She had as good a right to a cross as they had, and they had dozens of them. It was her funeral, not theirs. Where was the harm in it? Man, I am not reproaching you, but I cannot bear to think of you in torment. No great torment, lady. You see, I was used to worse. What? Worse than hell? 15 years service in the French wars. Hell was a treat after that. Joan throws up her arms and takes refuge from despair of humanity before the picture of the Virgin. Suits me somehow. Day off was dull at first, like a wet Sunday. Don't mind it so much now. They tell me I can have as many as I like as soon as I want them. Charles asks, What is hell like? You won't find it so bad, sir. Jolly. Like as if you were always drunk without the trouble and expense of drinking. Tip-top company, too. Emperors and popes and kings and all sorts. They chip me about giving that young Judy the cross, but I don't care. I stand up to them proper and tell them if she hadn't a better right to it than they'd, she'd be where they are. That dumbfounds them, that does. All they can do is gnash their teeth hell fashion, and I just laugh and go off singing the old chanty, rum-tum-tumple. Hello, who's that knocking at the door? They listen as a long, gentle knocking is heard. Charles says, Come in. The door opens, and an old priest, white-haired, bent with a silly but benevolent smile, comes in and trots over to Joan. Excuse me, gentle lords and ladies. Do not let me disturb you. Only a poor old harmless English rector, formerly chaplain of the Cardinal, to my Lord of Winchester. John de Stoggenberger at your service. He looks at them inquiringly. Did you say anything? I'm a little deaf, unfortunately. Also a little, well, not always in my right mind, perhaps, but still, it is a small village with a few simple people. I suffice they love me there, and I am able to do a little good. I am well connected, you see, and they indulge me. Poor old John, what brought thee to this state? I tell my folks they must be very careful. I say to them, if you only say what you think about, you would think quite differently about it. I would give you a great shock. Oh, a great shock. And they all say, yes, parson, we all know you're a kind man, and would not harm a fly. That is a great comfort to me, for I'm not cruel by nature, you know. Who said you were? Well, you see, I did a very cruel thing once, because I did not know what cruelty was like. I had not seen it, you know. That is the great thing. You must see it, and then you are redeemed and saved. Cauchon asks, were not the sufferings of our Lord Christ enough for you? Oh, no, not at all. I had seen them in pictures and read of them in books, and been greatly moved by them, as I thought. But it was no use. It was not our Lord that redeemed me, but a young woman whom I saw actually burned to death. It was dreadful, oh, most dreadful, but it saved me. I've seen a different man ever since, though a little astray in my wits sometimes. Must then a Christ perish in torment in every age to save those who have no imagination? Joan breaks the silence. Well, if I saved all those, he would have been cruel to it. Well, if I saved all those he would have been cruel to if he had not been cruel to me, I was not burned for nothing, was I? Oh no, it was not you. My sight is bad. I cannot distinguish your features, but you are not she. Oh no, she was burned to a cinder, dead and gone, dead and gone. Stepping from behind the bed curtains on Charles's right, the bed between them, an executioner enters. She is more alive than you, old man. Her heart would not burn, and it would not drown. I was a master at my craft, better than the master of Paris, better than the master of Toulouse, but I could not kill the maid. She is up and alive everywhere. The Earl of Warwick, sallying from behind the curtains on the other side and coming to Joan's left hand. Madam, my congratulations on your rehabilitation. I feel that I owe you an apology. Oh, please, don't mention it. The burning was purely political. There was no personal feelings against you, I assure you. I bear no malice, my lord. Just so, very kind of you to meet me in that way. A touch of true breeding, but I must insist on apologizing ever amply. The truth is, these political necessities sometimes turn out to be political mistakes, and this one was a veritable howler, for your spirit conquered us, madam. In spite of our faggots, history will remember me for your sake, though the incidents of the connection were perhaps a little unfortunate. Hi, perhaps just a little, you funny man. Still, when they make you a saint, you will owe your halo to me, just as this lucky monarch owes his crown to you. Joan turns to him. I shall owe nothing to any man. I owe everything to the Spirit of God that was within me. But fancy me, a saint. What would St. Catherine and St. Margaret say if the farm girl was cocked up beside them? A clerical-looking gentleman in black frock coat and trousers and tall hat, in the fashion of the year 1920, suddenly appears before them in the corner on their right. They all stare at him. And they burst into uncontrollable laughter. Why this mirth, gentlemen? I congratulate you on having invented a most extraordinary comic dress. I do not understand. We are all in fancy dress. I am properly dressed. Dunois says, all dress is fancy dress, is it not? except our natural skins? The gentleman replies, "Pardon me, I am here on serious business and cannot engage in frivolous discussions." He takes out a paper and assumes a dry official manner. "I am sent to announce to you that Joan of Arc, formerly known as the Maid, having been the subject of an inquiry instituted by the Bishop of Orleans." Joan interrupts. "Ah, they remember me still in Orleans?" The gentleman, emphatically, to mark his indignation at the interruption, "By the Bishop of Orleans into the claim of the said Joan of Arc to be canonized as a saint." "But I never made any such claim." "The Church has examined the claim exhaustively in the usual course and have admitted the said Joan successively to the ranks of venerable and blessed." "Me? Venerable?" "Has finally declared her to have been endowed with heroic virtues and favored with private revelations, and calls and said venerable and blessed Joan to the communion of the Church triumphant as Saint Joan." Saint Joan! "On every 30th day of May, being the anniversary of the death of the said most blessed daughter of God, there shall be in every Catholic church to the end of time be celebrated a special office in commemoration of her, and it shall be lawful to dedicate a special chapel to her, and to place her image on its altar in every such church, and it shall be lawful and laudable for the faithful to kneel and address their prayers through her to the mercy seat." "Oh no! It is for the saint to kneel!" She falls on her knees, still wrapped. The gentleman puts his paper aside and retires beside the executioner. "In Basilica Vaticana, the 16th day of May, 1920. Dunois assists in raising Joan." "Half an hour to burn you, dear saint, and 4 centuries to find out the truth about you." William de Stogomber says, "Sir, I was chaplain to the Cardinal of Winchester once. They always would call him the Cardinal of England. It would be a great comfort to me, and to my master, to see a fair statue of the maiden in Winchester Cathedral. Will they put one there, do you think?" The modern-dressed gentleman replies, "As the building is temporarily in the hands of the Anglican heresy, I cannot answer for that." A vision of the statue in Winchester Cathedral is seen through the window. "Oh, look, that is Winchester. Is that meant to be me? I was stiffer on my feet." The vision fades. The gentleman continues, "I've been requested by the temporal authorities of France to mention that the multiplication of public statues to the maiden threatens to become an obstruction to traffic. I do so as a matter of courtesy to the said authorities, but must point out on behalf of the church that the maid's horse is no greater obstruction to traffic than any other horse." "Eh? I'm glad they have not forgotten my horse." A vision of the statue before Reims Cathedral appears. "Is that funny little thing me too?" Charles answers, "That is Reims Cathedral, where you had me crowned. It must be you." "Who has broken my sword? My sword was never broken. It is the sword of France." Dunois, "Never mind, swords can be mended. Your soul is unbroken, and you are the soul of France." The vision fades. The Archbishop and the Inquisitor are now seen on the right and left of Cauchon. "My sword shall conquer yet, the sword that never struck a blow. Though men destroyed my body, yet in my soul I have seen God." Cauchon kneels to her. "The girls in the field praise thee, for thou hast raised their eyes, and they see that there is nothing between them and heaven." Dunois follows suit. He also kneels before her. "The dying soldiers praise thee, because thou art a shield of glory between them and the judgment." The Archbishop also kneels. The princes of the church praise thee, because thou hast redeemed the faith that their worldliness has dragged through the mire. Warwick kneels to her. The cunning counselors praise thee, because thou hast cut the knots in which they have tied their own souls. Destogember kneels to her. The foolish old men on their deathbeds praise thee, because their sins against thee are turned into blessings. The Inquisitor kneels. The judges in the blindness and bondage of the law praise thee, because thou hast vindicated the vision and the freedom of the living soul. The soldier kneels. The wicked out of hell praise thee, because thou hast shown them that the fire that is not quenched is a holy fire. The executioner kneels to her. The tormentors and executioners praise thee, because thou hast shown that their hands are guiltless of the death of the soul. Lastly, Charles kneels. The unpretending praise thee, because thou hast taken upon thyself the heroic burdens that are too heavy for them. Joan responds, Woe unto me when all men praise thee. I bid you remember that I am a saint, and that saints can work miracles, and now tell me, shall I rise from the dead and come back to you, a living woman? A sudden darkness blots out the walls of the room as they all spring to their feet in consternation. Only the figures in the bed remain visible. What? Must I burn again? Are none of you ready to receive me? Kashan speaks. The heretic is always better dead, and mortal eyes cannot distinguish the saint from the heretic. Spare them. He bows and goes out as he came. Dunois speaks next. Forgive us, Joan. We're not yet good enough for you. I shall go back to my bed. He also goes. Warwick speaks. We sincerely regret our little mistake, but political necessities, though occasionally erroneous, are still imperative. So, if you will be good enough to excuse me... He steals discreetly away. The Archbishop. Your return would not make me the man you once thought me. The utmost I can say is that though I dare not bless you, I hope I may one day enter into your blessedness. Meanwhile, however... He too departs. The Inquisitor speaks next. I, who am of the dead, testified that day that you were innocent, but I do not see how the Inquisition could possibly be dispensed with under existing I do not see how the Inquisition could possibly be dispensed with under existing circumstances. Therefore, he goes. Stomberger speaks next. Oh, do not come back. You must not come back. I must die in peace. Give us peace in our time, O Lord. He goes. The modern gentleman. The possibility of your resurrection was not contemplated in the recent proceedings for your canonization. I must return to Rome for fresh instructions. He bows formally and withdraws. The executioner. As a master of my profession, I have to consider its interests, and, after all, my first duty is to my wife and children. I must have time to think over this. He goes. Charles. Poor old Joan. They have all run away from you, except this blackguard who has to go back to hell at 12 o'clock. And what can I do but follow Jacques Dunois' example and go back to bed too? And that he does. Good night, Charlie. Charles mumbles into his pillow. Good night. He sleeps. The darkness envelops his bed. Joan looks to the soldier. And you, my one faithful? What comfort have you for Saint Joan? Well, what do they all amount to, these kings and captains and bishops and lawyers and such like? They just leave you in the ditch to bleed to death, and the next thing is, you meet them down there for all the airs they give themselves. What I say is, you have as good a right to your notions as they have to theirs, and perhaps better. He settles himself for a lecture on the subject. You see, it's like this. If the first stroke of midnight is heard softly from a distant bell. Excuse me, a pressing appointment. He goes on tiptoe. The last remaining rays of light gather into a white radiance descending on Joan. The hour comes to strike. O God, that maddens this beautiful earth, when will it be ready to receive thy saints? How long, O Lord, how long?